if the child is otherwise well and the mother's health is well, since you say this hardly ever happens, is it reasonable to have
I will say abortion at the moment of birth does not happen. I also take care of patients who need abortion care later in pregnancy for many different reasons. And I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm just trying to highlight what these situations actually look like. So, for example, I did an abortion care later in pregnancy for someone.
I'm not going to get an answer to that. But
the Democratic position on abortion is simple and mainstream.
That was Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana questioning a doctor about abortions. This is a good example of the wordplay that is used in DC. They will say things like late-term abortions never happen, but there are many states where the law of the land does allow that to happen. If you would like to see an in-depth hearing about abortion and the reality of it, I did a video a while back of a hearing that Marjorie Taylor Greene held about abortion with multiple doctors, and it got no support from Congress, including from Republicans. However, the content from the hearing itself is very informative, and if you want to take a look, I'll link the highlights of that hearing below. So now I'm going to play the clip from this hearing, and then for context, I'm going to follow it up with previous comments from Democrats about abortion and their clear support of it. Regardless of whatever side you fall on this issue, you'll see that it's very disingenuous when they try and frame the narrative that they have a mainstream position when it comes to this.
Dr. Verma, just a quick question. You rightly point out that rarely is this done. Would you agree, therefore, that it would be reasonable to restrict late-term abortions?
So first, late-term abortion is not a medical term. We tend to say abortion later in pregnancy.
Would you find it reasonable that after some week that it would be reasonable to restrict an abortion after a certain period of week, given that, if this is the life of the mother and such like that? Because I think that's really the crux. Is there any kind of limit that will be placed? If you say this hardly ever happens or never happens, I think was your words, would it be reasonable then to restrict when this would occur?
When I provide abortion care later in pregnancy, I want you to envision a patient who has a nursery designed, a name picked out,
and we have to. I'm just saying,
who is diagnosed with a terrible fetal anomaly or a worsening health condition.
This is not a theoretical. I'm just saying, if the child is otherwise well and the mother's health is well, since you say this hardly ever happens, is it reasonable to have?
I will say abortion at the moment of birth does not happen. I also take care of patients who need abortion care later in pregnancy for many different reasons.
And I respected, by the way, I really did respect you speaking of that tension between the week 23 that you would abort and the week 23 that you would resuscitate. I think you're avoiding, I don't mean to be confrontative, but you're avoiding the dialogue here.
No, I totally hear you, and I'm not trying to be confrontational. I'm just trying to highlight what these situations actually look like. So, for example, I did an abortion care later in pregnancy for someone.
I'm not going to get an answer to that, but and Dr. Francis, will you just finish up on that question, please?
Absolutely. Well, I think certainly beyond the point where a child can survive outside of his or her mother, there would never be a reason you would need to intentionally end that child's life. You'd simply deliver that baby, you'd take care of mom, and you'd take care of baby in an appropriate way. And I think that that's something that I would hope that all of us at this table could agree upon.
With that, I yield. Thank you.
Okay. I just...
Let me just give Dr. Verna, I don't think that Senator Cassidy gave you the opportunity to respond effectively. Take 2 minutes to respond and say what you wanted to say.
I appreciate it. I was just trying to paint a picture as a doctor who's actually sitting with these patients and providing this full spectrum of care, what this care actually looks like. So when I'm providing care for a patient, for example, that comes in later in pregnancy, a lot of times that's a patient who's received a terrible fetal diagnosis and is having to make that difficult decision. They have a nursery set up, they have a name picked out, and what they need from me as their doctor is support. I have some patients that choose to continue that pregnancy and deliver at term, and other patients who say that's too traumatic, I can't do that. And my job is to support them in both of those situations with whatever is right in their life. I think as doctors, we all recognize that providing life-saving care sometimes means ending a pregnancy, and to call that care something besides an abortion is an issue of semantics to further a political agenda. And so the care that we're referring to that sometimes means ending a pregnancy, that is abortion care, and that is what we are talking about here, and is sometimes necessary life-saving care for our patients who come in needing this care for a variety of reasons.
Thank you for that comment. And I'll just say that, as Dr. Verma said, abortion up until the moment of birth doesn't happen. Abortions that are later in pregnancy
are extraordinarily rare, and they occur essentially only when a pregnancy is non-viable and the mother risks severe injury or death by remaining pregnant. The Democratic position on abortion is simple and mainstream. We want to ensure that every woman has the right to receive abortion care should she need it. The decision to have an abortion is extremely personal, and that should be made in every instant. That is our position.
Do you support any restrictions on abortion?
I don't. I've always believed...
Even in the third trimester? Do you think there should be any limitation on abortions?
No, I do not.
Up till now, my understanding is there wasn't a limit on when in a pregnancy a woman could receive an abortion. Have you set any limit on
There are no limits. Is there a cutoff for you before that point?
No, to me, it's a reproductive, it's a healthcare decision. It's up to women to make that decision.
Where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified?
My bill would allow that, yes.
Virginia's governor says he has no regrets on his comments earlier this week defending abortion, even as a baby is being born.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
Are you for what he said, or late-term abortion, or the moments that he was talking about where you would keep a woman comfortable after she was giving birth in case she wanted to abort her third-term child?
I don't know all his comments, but what I do know is that I am for women having the right to make a choice about her own body.
State lawmakers in New York approved a law permitting abortion in the state up until birth. Cuomo applauded the legislation and marked the occasion by lighting the spire of the One World Trade Center pink to celebrate.
8 months into pregnancy, should a woman be allowed legally to have an abortion?
Again, I've told you I believe women's right to choose, period.
At the Capitol today, a House committee approved a bill that would remove restrictions on abortions performed in Minnesota.
The bill would erase the requirements such as parental notification, or that clinics can only handle first trimester abortions, that patients be told about possible links to cancer, and the 24-hour waiting period. The bill would repeal a law that requires doctors to save any baby born alive during an abortion.
Those in favor of Prop 1 include Governor Newsom, the California Democratic Party, and abortion rights groups such as the Planned Parenthood affiliates of California.
It would remove all restrictions on abortion, allowing for late-term abortion even up until the moment of birth, even if both mother and baby are healthy.
Now, he is vowing to fight here and says this new law makes it very clear where California stands on the issue as a sanctuary for abortion care.
Governor Gavin Newsom announced a new abortion marketing website establishing California as the nation's taxpayer-funded abortion state.
The president is prepared to sign the Women's Health Protection Act,
the so-called Women's Health Protection Act that would have nullified state and religious freedom laws across the country with respect to abortions and allowed late-term abortions without any notable restrictions in most cases.
Does he support any limits on abortion?
He supports the right of a woman to make choices about her own body.
Do you support any limitation on abortion, or do you think that women should have the right to have an abortion all the way up to 9 months?
That should be a choice made between a doctor and a woman. You do it by not setting arbitrary gestational limits.
Do you believe at any point in pregnancy, whether it's at 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 24 weeks or whenever, that there should be any limit on a woman's right to have an abortion?
I trust women to draw the line.
Senator Warren, would you put limits on any limits on abortion?
I would make certain that every woman has access to the full range of reproductive health care services, and that includes birth control, it includes abortion.
Any kind of limit for abortion, where do you go? 15 weeks? What do you do? Where do you go?
Look, there is no one-size-fits-all limit.
You would veto any law with any limit on abortion?
I would veto any additional restrictions on abortion that are sent to my desk as governor, yes.
Do you believe that a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy up until the moment of birth?
Look, I think that happens very, very rarely, but at the end of the day, I believe that the decision over abortion belongs to a woman and a physician.
My question was about any limits to abortion at any point.
late term, anything?
You got to leave it up to the woman.
Do you believe there should be any restrictions on abortion?
I don't.
I was born September 8th, 1989, and I want to know if you think on September 7th, 1989, my life had no value.
This is a decision that neither you, nor I, nor the United States government should be making. That's a decision for the woman to make.